The story begins with an introduction that immediately pulls the audience into the contrast between two very different worlds. The wealthy, powerful millionaire and the humble maid who works in his household. The millionaire is portrayed as someone used to authority, attention, and privilege, while the maid is seen as an ordinary woman with little recognition, quietly moving in the background of his luxurious lifestyle. This contrast is what builds the intrigue from the very first moment, because viewers naturally want to see what will happen when two such different people come face to face in a situation that breaks the usual roles they occupy. To keep the attention of the audience, the introduction must not only highlight their differences, but also hint at the unexpected. There is a deliberate setup here. The millionaire is about to issue a challenge that seems at first out of place for someone like the maid, who is generally perceived as powerless or insignificant in his eyes. At this stage, the viewer is encouraged to think along the same lines as the millionaire, expecting the maid to be shocked, overwhelmed, or incapable of rising to the occasion. Yet, underneath this setup, there is also a sense of suspense being built, because the word shocking in the title promises that something far from ordinary will unfold. The introduction must therefore walk a fine line. It should establish the power imbalance without giving away the twist too soon. By presenting the millionaire as confident, perhaps even arrogant, and the maid as quiet but observant, the scene builds anticipation for a reversal. This first moment is crucial because it plants the seed of curiosity. Viewers are left eager to discover not just what the challenge is, but how someone underestimated will respond in an unforgettable way. The millionaire's proposal is the turning point that pushes the story into motion. After setting the stage with his wealth, confidence, and larger-than-life presence, he presents the maid with a challenge that seems almost designed to expose her limitations. The challenge can be framed as something unexpected, perhaps a test of intelligence, courage, or skill that feels out of reach for someone in her position. This proposal is not simply a casual suggestion. It carries weight because it reflects the millionaire's assumptions about power and status. By issuing this challenge, he not only entertains himself, but also reinforces the idea that people like him set the rules while others must either comply or fail. To the audience, the proposal feels provocative, almost unfair, because it is given from a place of superiority. At the same time, it is fascinating because viewers instinctively wonder whether the maid will collapse under the pressure or surprise everyone with her response. The way the millionaire frames the challenge also matters. Perhaps he couches it in arrogance with a tone that suggests she could never succeed, or he might deliver it as a dare meant to humiliate her. This attitude intensifies the drama, setting up a dynamic where the audience feels both tension and anticipation. The contrast is heightened because the challenge might seem trivial to someone with wealth and access to resources. Yet for the maid, it represents a test of her identity, dignity, and resilience. As the millionaire lays out the terms, the silence or hesitation that follows magnifies the moment, as if time itself pauses to measure her reaction. This is where the audience leans in, fully engaged, knowing that what happens next will defy expectations and alter the power balance in ways no one could predict. The maid's initial reaction is a moment layered with complexity, and it is here that the emotional depth of the story begins to unfold. When the millionaire delivers his challenge, all eyes naturally shift toward her, waiting to see if she will break under the weight of expectation. At first glance, her face might reveal shock, wide eyes, a flicker of disbelief, perhaps even a nervous smile that betrays her uncertainty. For a brief second, The viewer shares her hesitation, because it seems only natural that someone in her position would doubt herself when confronted with such an unexpected demand. Yet beneath that surface reaction, something stronger begins to stir. Rather than collapsing into fear or embarrassment, she holds her ground, allowing the pause to create suspense. This hesitation is not weakness, it is reflection. It is the moment she silently calculates whether she will walk away humiliated or seize the opportunity to rewrite how others see her. The millionaire, watching her closely, expects submission, perhaps a polite refusal or a clumsy attempt that will amuse him. Instead, her quiet composure unsettles him because it suggests she is not as predictable as he thought. To the audience, this initial reaction becomes a powerful hook. The maid embodies both vulnerability and strength, and that tension makes her fascinating to watch. Even if she does not yet reveal her decision, the firmness in her gaze or the steadiness of her breath sends a subtle message. She will not be defined by the assumptions of those who believe themselves above her. This moment is important because it shifts the narrative from one-sided control to the possibility of an unexpected reversal. Her reaction, both hesitant and quietly defiant, sets the stage for a response that no one, especially the millionaire, could have imagined. As the moment stretches on, the tension rises steadily, almost like a string pulled tighter and tighter, threatening to snap. The challenge now looms larger than life, not just because of what the millionaire has asked, but because of the social weight pressing down on the maid. Everyone in the room, if there is an audience, begins to watch closely, whispering among themselves, some with skepticism, others with curiosity. The millionaire leans back with a smug expression, confident that his words have already cornered her. This air of superiority only intensifies the unease, making the maid appear as though she is being pushed into a trap designed for her to fail. The task, while perhaps ordinary to someone with wealth, education, or influence, becomes almost impossible when measured against her background. The imbalance is stark, and this disparity fuels the suspense. The audience feels the unfairness, and that emotional connection builds empathy toward her. The tension also comes from silence itself. Each second that passes without her response feels louder than words, stretching anticipation to its breaking point. At the same time, the maid's body language begins to shift. She may start with small signs of nervousness, a clenched hand, a quick breath, but then something subtle changes. Her shoulders straighten, her eyes narrow, her posture grows firm. The tension, once directed at her, begins to reverse, creeping back toward the millionaire, who now feels the possibility that his own game may not play out as he imagined. The atmosphere becomes electric, not because the challenge has been answered, but because it has transformed from a one-sided display of power into a shared moment of suspense where anything can happen. This rising tension primes the audience for a twist, promising that what follows will not only surprise, but also redefine the balance between the two. The moment of decision arrives when the maid finally accepts the challenge, and it is nothing short of breathtaking because it runs against every expectation set up until now. At first, her acceptance may come softly, with a calm but steady voice that cuts through the silence. Or it might come boldly, with a sharp response that instantly shifts the energy in the room. Either way, what makes this moment so powerful is the courage it represents. The millionaire expected hesitation, perhaps even refusal, but instead she steps forward into the unknown, refusing to let herself be belittled. Her choice is not just about proving she can complete the task. It is about reclaiming her dignity in a setting where she was never supposed to shine. Viewers feel a surge of admiration because they recognize that it takes extraordinary strength to face a challenge designed to humiliate. The maid's acceptance also signals a shift in power dynamics. By agreeing, she forces the millionaire to confront the possibility that his plan may not end the way he intended. What was meant to be entertainment at her expense now carries the risk of exposing his arrogance. This tension draws the audience deeper because they sense that the stage has been set for a reversal. At the same time, her response highlights her inner resolve. She does not need wealth or privilege to stand tall. Her quiet confidence becomes her greatest asset. This turning point gives the story a spark of defiance, one that resonates beyond the surface scene. It tells viewers that strength does not always come from status, but from the courage to face intimidation head-on. Her decision to accept transforms the narrative completely, laying the foundation for the shocking twist that is yet to come. What follows next is the most unexpected twist, the very heart of why this story captivates. Instead of stumbling or struggling under the weight of the millionaire's challenge, the maid responds in a way no one could have predicted. The tension that had been building suddenly flips, and her reaction becomes a revelation. She might display a hidden skill, deliver a clever answer, or perform with a confidence that completely undermines the assumption that she was weak or incapable. The brilliance of this moment lies in its reversal, where the audience and the millionaire alike had been led to expect defeat. They are instead confronted with undeniable strength. It is not only about what she does, but how she does it. Her actions carry a natural grace, a calm authority, or a spark of wit that suggests she had the ability all along, only waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The twist strikes hardest because it proves the millionaire wrong in the most public and dramatic way. His smug confidence falters as the maid shows that she is more than the label society has given her. The shock on his face mirrors the shock felt by everyone watching, turning the maid into the center of admiration and respect. This unexpected response shifts the balance of power so completely that the millionaire's wealth and status suddenly seem irrelevant. For the audience, the twist is both satisfying and empowering because it embodies the universal appeal of an underdog triumphing against arrogance. What seemed like a one-sided spectacle becomes a moment of justice, where intelligence, courage, and resilience outshine privilege. The maid's shocking response is not just a victory in that instant. It is a statement that worth is not defined by position, but by the strength of character revealed when tested. The millionaire's shock is a scene that holds as much drama as the maid's response itself, because it reveals the collapse of his carefully maintained sense of superiority. Until this point, he had carried himself with absolute confidence, certain that the challenge would expose the maid's weakness and confirm his own dominance. Yet the instant she responds, in a way that defies all expectations, his demeanor cracks. His smile may falter, his eyes widen, or he might shift uncomfortably in his seat, small but telling signs that his authority has been shaken. The audience sees, perhaps for the first time, that the millionaire is not untouchable. He is human, vulnerable to surprise, and even humbled by the brilliance of someone he underestimated. This reaction is powerful because it flips the hierarchy. He, man, who once seemed larger than life, is reduced to silence, struggling to process how his plan has backfired. In some stories, he might try to laugh it off, masking embarrassment with forced amusement, while in others, he might stare in disbelief, unable to find words. Either way, the effect is the same. The audience witnesses arrogance, giving way to humility. The shock is not just about the maid succeeding. It is about the millionaire realizing that wealth does not guarantee wisdom or superiority. For the viewers, this moment is deeply satisfying because it offers a sense of poetic justice. They see the maid's courage exposing the emptiness of his pride. His shock validates her strength and transforms the entire situation into a moral lesson. The man who set the stage to ridicule another ends up being the one whose image is most shaken. His stunned reaction becomes the perfect mirror to her triumph, a dramatic reversal that ensures the moment will be remembered long after the challenge ends. The maid's confidence now becomes the defining force of the story, radiating more powerfully than any wealth or status could. After her shocking response, she stands not as a servant defined by her position, but as an individual whose strength and intelligence command attention. Her posture straightens, her voice steadies, and her eyes carry a fire that was perhaps unseen before this moment. What makes her confidence so impactful is that it does not come from arrogance or pride, but from self-belief, a quiet certainty that she is capable of more than others give her credit for. Viewers are drawn to this transformation because they witness her shift from the shadows of invisibility into the spotlight of respect. Her confidence also carries a symbolic weight. It represents the resilience of those who are often overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed because of their social standing. By meeting the millionaire's challenge with such poise, she demonstrates that dignity cannot be taken away by wealth or intimidation. The audience feels inspired because her courage speaks to universal struggles. Everyone has faced doubt or judgment, and her defiance becomes a beacon of possibility. The millionaire, once so certain of his control, now finds himself unsettled by the fact that the maid does not cower but meets his gaze as an equal. This subtle yet powerful assertion shifts the balance of power permanently. In this stage of the story, her confidence no longer belongs only to her. It becomes contagious, resonating with those who witness it. People in the room and viewers beyond the story feel uplifted by her example. She shows that real strength is not measured by money or influence, but by the courage to stand firm when tested. Her composure, once underestimated, now shines as the very quality that makes her unforgettable. The lesson that emerges from this turning point is what gives the story its lasting impact, elevating it beyond a simple exchange into something meaningful. At first glance, it may appear to be just a dramatic clash between a wealthy man and a maid. But the deeper message reveals itself in the way power is redefined. The millionaire's challenge, designed to belittle, instead exposes the emptiness of arrogance and the futility of judging people by their social status. The maid's strength, intelligence, and composure send a clear reminder that true worth is not measured in money, possessions, or appearances, but in the courage and dignity with which a person faces adversity. For the audience, this lesson resonates on a personal level. Everyone has, at some point, been underestimated, overlooked, or treated as less capable because of where they come from or the role they play in life. The maid's response offers reassurance that one's value cannot be diminished by the opinions of others. It inspires viewers to carry themselves with confidence, even when circumstances seem stacked against them. At the same time, it delivers a cautionary message to those who hold power. Never assume superiority simply because of wealth or position. for life has a way of humbling even the mightiest. What makes this lesson even more profound is its universality. Across cultures and contexts, people recognize the timeless truth that respect and humanity should not be tied to privilege. By transforming what was meant to humiliate into a victory of character, the Maid's story becomes not just a moment of triumph, but a parable about resilience, equality, and justice. It lingers in the mind long after the scene ends, because it speaks to something greater than the characters themselves. It speaks to the dignity every person carries within. The closing impact of this story lingers like an echo, ensuring that the moment is remembered not just for its drama, but for the way it reshaped the entire dynamic between the millionaire and the maid. After her bold response and the visible shock on his face, the atmosphere shifts into a silence heavy with realization. The audience, whether it is the people present in the room or those experiencing the story secondhand, feels the weight of what just happened. The maid, once expected to stand quietly in the background, now occupies the center of attention, not because of wealth or power, but because of the undeniable force of her character. In this final moment, the millionaire is left to reflect, humbled by the realization that his status cannot shield him from truth. His attempt to display dominance ends up unraveling into a lesson that even he cannot ignore. The maid, however, does not gloat or boast. Instead, her calm composure in victory amplifies the power of the scene. She doesn't need to say much, for her actions already spoke louder than words could. That restraint makes the impact even stronger, showing that real strength does not require arrogance. It requires grace. For the viewers, the closing moment becomes a takeaway that stays with them long after the scene ends. It reminds them that confidence and dignity can overturn even the deepest inequalities, and that respect must never be denied to anyone, regardless of their station in life. The stunned silence, the lingering glances, and the undeniable shift in perception ensure that the maid's triumph is etched in memory. This ending delivers both satisfaction and reflection, wrapping the story in a way that not only resolves the conflict, but also leaves an indelible mark of inspiration, justice, and empowerment.